Hi, I'm horror author Paul Edwards. Tonight I'm reading Famous Monsters of Filmland, issue 99, with a special feature on House of Frankenstein. I thought some of you might enjoy flipping through this vintage magazine with me. Together, let's see what kinds of Monster Kid goodness is in here. Famous Monsters of Filmland, issue 99, has a special 16-page bonus feature on House of Frankenstein, which featured Boris Karloff, Lon Chaney Jr., John Carradine, Glenn Strange, and J. Carrol Naish. You got them all in House of Frankenstein. Nonetheless, the movie was kind of a mishmash, but it should be good for a lot of good photos. Plus, that's not all. You get blobs, brains, and other gooey objects. Oh boy, and all for only 75 cents. All right, look at this awesome painting of the Wolfman by Basil Gogos. A lot of times his covers for this magazine were better than the whole movie that was actually being portrayed. This is just great. Just great. Look at that detail. All right, let's get to it. Opening right up with, do you know this monster? That is the Monster from Hell, from Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. They're beautiful. They're engaged. Wow. Oh boy. Well, there's someone for everyone. Fang mail. Look at this kid who did his own vampire makeup in the hopes of getting published in the letters to the editor section. And this kid, look at this. Nice. I like him. Oh, these kids have the first 2 issues of Famous Monsters. That's pretty good. All right, so let's see what we're getting now. And now the noose. Because, you know, used to be and now the news. Okay. Ooh. That's Frankenstein. Drip, drip, drip. The Island of Lost Stills. Okay, we got to take a look at some of this here. And now the noose. Oh, this is a little piece of movie history. First photos of Christopher Lee in Dracula is Dead and Well and Living in London. Well, mercifully, they did not end up using that title for the movie because, I think partly because Christopher Lee himself complained publicly about it. He said, it's got a comedy title, but it's not a comedy movie. I don't understand. Nice. I'm going to take another look at this. In 1958, we got Frankenstein 1970. In 1973, it's Frankenstein 1980 from Italy, where they made the first Frankenstein film in 1930. What? That's just not right. And here is a portrait of the future Frankenstein. Okay, well, the first Frankenstein film, I believe, was the Edison film, not the 1931 Universal one, not a 1931. That was, when was the Edison Frankenstein, like 1910 maybe? So, got that one wrong either way, Forey. Sorry. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Yikes. Blobs, brains, and other gooey objects. Nice. Or, Martha, how can that sludge be moving toward us? Or, Gad, what a colorful mess. You know, that's a good detail. You wouldn't think in the Vampire Bat there was a blob monster, but there actually is in the lab in the final reel. Oh boy. Letter to a lycanthrope. The werewolf wants to hear from you. Oh, gee. Calling Dr. Death. Last call for J. Carrol Naish. J. Carrol Naish had a successful Hollywood career. To monster kids, there are three parts for which he would be best known. The first is that in The Beast with Five Fingers, which was the definitive crawling hand movie, he played the police inspector who was trying to solve the case. In this film here, which is House of Frankenstein, which also happens to be the movie we're getting a big spread on later in the magazine, he played Daniel, the quote-unquote hunchback. Unfortunately, his final role is the third of the three films monster film fans would know best. It was in Dracula vs. Frankenstein, an ignominious end to his career. The 1971 film in which he played the mad scientist, Dr. Duray, who was the last surviving member of the Frankenstein family. And he was quite ill when he made the movie. And he co-starred with Lon Chaney Jr., who also was quite ill when he made the movie. And lamentably, this was both of their last film. So it was not a great way to end a pretty illustrious career. So rest in peace, J. Carrol Naish. In fact, here he is as Dr. Duray. And there's Lon Chaney Jr. as Groton in Dracula vs. Frankenstein. Yep, there he is in the Batman movie Serial. Here he is in Monster Maker. So there's a couple things wrong here. First of all, this is back to Dracula versus Frankenstein. This is quite a spoiler. This is what happens to Dr. Duray. Secondly, they have the movie listed here as Frankenstein versus Dracula, which is not correct. It was Dracula versus Frankenstein. And there were two movies in 1971, both called Dracula versus Frankenstein. One European, one American. It wasn't like there were two different versions of the same movie or anything like that. They were two completely different films. They just happened to both come out the same year. So they should have named one Dracula versus Frankenstein and one Frankenstein versus Dracula, see? Dr. Renault's Secret, yep, that's another genre favorite that he appeared in. They're already billing the 100 Fears Old. I love it. They're already billing the 100th issue, which would be the next issue. I already did a video on the 100th issue. You can find that on my channel. That's a good issue, too. Okay, but here's the main feature for this issue. House of Frankenstein. Universal's first monster mash was Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, which was very successful. And putting two monsters together in one movie was a novel idea at the time. Obviously, now it's a tried and true trope. But since it worked so well in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, they decided to throw more monsters in for the next film, which was House of Frankenstein. So we got 5 quote-unquote monsters. The monsters were Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein monster, okay, all right. The Hunchback, quote-unquote, that's how he was billed, the Hunchback. But it's not the Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is obviously what they want you to infer. It's just someone who happens to have a deformity. And the Mad Scientist, who Karloff was creepy as Dr. Neiman in this film, but I'm not sure that counts as a monster. But okay, they build it this way as a film with 5 monsters. And the movie posters for this are actually quite good. Some would say better than the actual movie. So basically, Dr. Neiman, who was a wannabe Dr. Frankenstein, escapes from prison with his friend, the quote-unquote hunchback, Daniel, and plans to resume his research into Frankenstein's work. On the way, he takes over a spook show at a carnival, which just happens to have the remains of Count Dracula in a coffin. And by removing the stake, he brings Dracula back to life. Frankenstein monster, played here for the first of 3 times by Glenn Strange. I'm sure 99% of you who would watch a video like this already know this, but just in case you don't, Boris Karloff here had famously played the Frankenstein monster in the 1931 Frankenstein and in the next 2 sequels, Bride of Frankenstein and Son of Frankenstein. He stopped playing the part after Son of Frankenstein because he felt that the part was worsening, and Lon Chaney Jr. did it in Ghost of Frankenstein. And by this film, I'm sorry, I missed Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. Bela Lugosi played it. Then by this film, the part had become so thankless that the Frankenstein monster didn't do a whole lot other than just lumber around, roaring and chasing people. So it was a pretty thankless role by the time Glenn Strange took it over. But he looked great as the Frankenstein monster. So in this one, Boris Karloff played the Mad Doctor. There's something interesting. I've noticed a problem in this scene, probably because I've seen the movie so many times. So here, Dr. Niemann and Daniel are exploring the castle ruins, okay? And Daniel thinks he finds something good, and when he walks over to it, the floor collapses under him and he falls down. But if you watch Karloff during that moment, he's facing this way, and even though Daniel is going, whoa, whoa, and there's crashing and crumbling and falling through the rocks, Karloff is still looking unnaturally long over in this direction. Only when Daniel's completely fallen through does Karloff take it as his cue, and then he turns and looks. He's like, oh, what happened? That just sort of bugs me in that picture. It's something you probably wouldn't notice if you've seen the movie less than 20 times. But they weren't going to go back and do it again, I'm sure. Meanwhile, you're getting the whole story here in synopsis form, which is great. If you never saw the movie or, just wanted to relive it, you could read the script along while you're looking at the pictures. Not really the script, but it's the synopsis. Yeah, you knew this wasn't going to end well. And jumping back and forth, though, with the pictures, these are things that happen later in the movie. This is right at the end of the movie. This is much earlier in the movie. One of my problems with this film is that the Dracula portion of the movie has a beginning, middle, and end before we even get to the part where we meet the Wolfman and the Frankenstein monster. So Dracula doesn't interact with the other two at all. The promotional material for this film was great, though. Mad Doctor, Wolfman, Monster, Dracula, Hunchback. You got to admit, it did look really exciting, especially if you were a kid at the time. Yeah, the final fate of Dr. Niemann. We see his bones again in House of Dracula, so we know he was done for real. One thing that bothers me in this film is the dialogue. And there's one piece of dialogue that absolutely drives me up a wall in this movie. And that is when the Wolfman is freed from his icy entombment where he's been since the end of Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. A film which had really good dialogue. His line, when he transforms back into Larry Talbot, human form, he has a line that goes, "Why have you freed me from the ice that imprisoned the beast that dwelled within me? Why?" It's the most awkward, clumsy, forced line of dialogue, I think, in any Universal horror film. Nobody talks like that. It was awful, just awful. I mean, Lon Chaney Jr. did the best he could saying it. I'm not even blaming him. I'm blaming the script. That was just terrible. This is a well-circulated publicity image of Dr. Neiman and Daniel. Uh-oh. All right, now we're getting scary. The Mad Doctor of Blood Island. I mean, if you are the Mad Doctor of Blood Island, do you like put that on your business cards and stuff? You use that as your business motto for your practice? I wouldn't think you would want to be known that way. Forrest J. Ackerman joke. The choker's wild. Oh, now we're starting to get into the merchandise. You can get your Monster LPs. Forrest J. Ackerman was very good at digging up obscure stills from older horror movies. Probably most famously, he was the one who unearthed a picture of the spider pit scene from the 1933 King Kong, which is a completely lost scene. Pigman from the Island of Dr. Moreau. Yikes. Do you recognize this? That's Dracula's ring from the 1971 American Dracula versus Frankenstein that I was talking about earlier. Here's the answer to last month's. The Beast from Hollow Mountain. Plenty of space and monster paperbacks. Plenty of Super 8 films. You can get your highlight reels from your favorite horror movies to show on your home movie projector. Here's one I haven't seen in too many of these issues. The Wonder Woman hardcover full color. I wonder if this is this must be a compilation of Wonder Woman comics from years gone by, because it's got the Golden Age Wonder Woman on it. That's not how they were drawing Wonder Woman when this magazine came out in 1973. That's the Golden Age Wonder Woman. Oh yeah, the Aurora snap together models. No glue necessary, at least in theory. I had almost all of these. I still have the tar pit in really good condition. Well, the one thing that's missing here is they don't have the crown jewel of the collection, the Tyrannosaurus, which I didn't have either as a kid. I think I had all of these, but I didn't have the Tyrannosaurus. So when I was a kid growing up in suburban Boston, school field trips often used to go to the Museum of Science in Boston, and these were sold at the Museum of Science. So every few months you would have an opportunity to score another one. Oh wow, look at this kid won the monster makeup contest. Good for him, man. There's a Man Thing homemade costume. That's good. Apes Agape. Oh my gosh, look at some of these. Look at all the ones kids did up. This is pretty good for kids doing this makeup job at home. That's not bad. Get some girl ghouls. Girl ghouls. Girls get to play too. I don't know why they seem to think in these magazines that the target audience was boys, but there were plenty of girl monster kids too. Oh wow, look at that. Yikes. That's great. Oh. Listen, if you enjoy classic monsters and vintage horror, check out my book series, the Mourner's Woods books. I've written a series of novels that take place in a haunted forest, Mourner's Woods. They're for sale on Amazon. I'm self-published on Amazon. Each book has different monsters, and a completely new cast of characters enter into this haunted wilderness to face them. My books, again, are the Mourner's Woods books. I'll drop a link in this description for this video. Thanks for spending some time looking through Famous Monsters of Filmland issue 99 with me. I'll see you in Mourner's Woods.